But either way, yeah, it feels like 3 points dropped tonight.
Yeah, it does. And I
Well, I guess
mean,
two.
yeah, it was. I mean, you could tell. I think that we were tired at the end, and Lasada said that again at the presser. It felt like a loop of back of him saying, "Okay, let's check who the other team played this weekend." Oh, they didn't play anyone. We're just gonna have to play midweek again. Or I think last time it was who did they play midweek, and then we had to play them in the weekend. But we keep getting stuck with these games after games after games, and our opponents aren't necessarily, and you can see that wearing down on us.
That will be better this weekend.
Zach, we'll just go straight into questions.
Awesome.
Looks
Sounds
like
good.
we're starting the
We'll go
press
Steve
conference
Goff
now.
first. Steve, go ahead.
Hernan, wondering if you could assess the match, your level of frustration or disappointment being unable to score the goal with the man advantage.
I'm not frustrated and I'm not disappointed.
All right, we'll go to Jason Anderson. Jason.
Hi, Hernan. Obviously, not the result you wanted. I think when you first came aboard, you said you had never had a scoreless draw. The way this one played out, I'm sure, is not the best feeling. How do you evaluate the performance of the substitutes that came in, especially Yao, Reina, and Assad, who maybe haven't played that much this season?
The whole team make an excellent game. You can add Montreal to the list of teams that we dominated for 90 minutes. And I don't think that's an easy thing. Even 11v11, we were the best team during the first half, creating the best chances. And we keep the 0 once again, the third clean sheet in a row. We took a point and we missed 25 opportunities to score. From the 25, I think we only had 5 on target. And that's, again, something that actually I don't think you can train. You can train how to create all those chances, how to put the players on the right position. And the team today did absolutely everything to win the game from minute 9 until minutes 96. So that's why I repeat, I'm not disappointed. I'm not frustrated. The whole team played a great game, and the only thing that is missing, and that's nothing new, is the goals.
We'll go back to Steve.
Hernan, what do you think you can do to change this level of efficiency in the final third, in the box with these opportunities?
Nothing, Steve. I can't do nothing.
We'll go to Mauricio Gomez. Mauricio, go ahead.
Profe, gracias por tu tiempo. Como ya sabemos, 25 llegadas con disparos, 5 al arco y definitivamente falta el gol. ¿Qué es ese ingrediente que hace falta para ganar? Porque todo lo demás está.
El gol. Es lo único que falta, el gol. Y va a llegar, el gol va a llegar. Así que tranquilo, mientras generes 25 oportunidades de gol, no solo este partido, porque con Inter Miami fueron 16, con Orlando fueron no sé cuántas, contra Filadelfia fueron no sé cuántas. Así que no me preocupo en lo más mínimo. El equipo mantiene el 0, el equipo juega bien, el equipo domina el partido, el equipo presiona alto, el equipo está bien físicamente. ¿Falta el gol? Bueno, falta el gol. En algún momento llegará. ¿Estaría preocupado? ¿Sabés cuándo estaría preocupado? Si nos hacen goles, si nos generan un montón de situaciones de gol, si estamos mal parados defensivamente, si no generamos situaciones de peligro, si mi equipo está mal físicamente, si mi equipo no puede aguantar 90 minutos corriendo y presionando y dominando al rival. Ahí me puedo preocupar. Hoy me voy muy feliz. Lo único que faltó fue el gol y perdimos 2 puntos. Jugando de visitante, un partido difícil, contra un equipo que no jugó el fin de semana. Nosotros hicimos un esfuerzo grande el sábado para ganar. Vinimos acá, dominamos el partido. Bueno, merecimos 3 puntos, nos llevamos 1.
That's it, Coach. No more questions.
Thank you.
Well, Hernan Losada would like
All right,
us to
folks,
think
Russell
that he's not
Knauss coming up
frustrated,
next.
but
Go ahead, hands up for Russ. Thank you.
certainly all evidence to the contrary there. I think, to me, you can tell that it's still under his skin when we do everything to win a game but finish, and he it sounds very familiar to a game earlier this season. I can't put my finger on it right now, but probably Orlando at home, when feels like we did everything to win the game except score. Doesn't count for anything, Coach. I admire the optimism there, and he's right. We did, but we got to fix this. We got to fix the finishing. What do you guys think?
Sorry, we were all over the place tonight.
We're finally.
Go ahead, Black.
I was gonna say, I think we're starting to see a pattern and a style for how Losada is going to handle these press conferences afterwards. We've had years of watching Ben come out and tell us we fought with heart and et cetera, et cetera. But it seems pretty clear that Losada is going to save the chewing anybody out for a time where it's absolutely needed. But otherwise, he's going to maintain positivity, talk about the good things people did, not try to avoid talking about individual players. So it's interesting to see that, but you could definitely tell that maybe that's the great things about the video format is that we get to see the frustration, whereas in print that may not come across.
Yeah, I mean, Shioni went out publicly. Maybe I'd love to be a fly on that wall in the locker room, right? He's clearly very frustrated. And I think this is the mentality he had coming into the league, right? Is a lot of teams are okay with getting that point on the road and saying, okay, we dominated, but we didn't get it, but it wasn't at home. So we just had another game. So we'll just regroup and we'll come back and hopefully win our next one. But that's not good enough. Losada wants to win every single game. And I think that type of mentality is what has shown the improvements that we've already seen up until this point. And I think that mentality is going to take us really far kind of into the next stretch of the season. And then, into the next several seasons, hopefully, when he has a little bit more say on the type of players we're bringing in. Because someone made the comment that he's not really saying it, but you need a striker, right? He essentially said it. He said, there's nothing I can do right now, which spoke volumes to me.
Oh, no, I think that line is huge. I think it shows, look, guys, he's done everything for it. He's got this team that was awful last year, creating 20-plus shots a game now, like pretty consistently. And also pretty consistently, they're not going into the net, and that's got to change. And, man,
Just a few more minutes, folks. Thanks.
I'd love to say, like, man, he could coach them up, but these are players who have scored before and have just stopped. So I think it might actually be a quality thing, and apparently the bank account's empty, and we're not going to get too much reinforcements in the summer, but we really might need it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk a little bit. I mean, we've put a lot at the feet of Ola Kamara, which is probably fair, but I do think tonight
the team has two.
We had both Kevin Paredes and Adrian Perez both had chances that really should have gone into the back of the net tonight, and I don't think that Ola had quite as good of an opportunity tonight. So it's important to remember that goals should not only be coming from the striker, and really the whole team has got to put in better finishing performances. Of course, the strikers are most responsible for that. That's why they're in that position on the field. But, there's 10 other guys that could, I guess, probably not Bill, so maybe 9 other guys that could be finishing as well.
Yeah, I would put Paul in that mix too. I think he had 1 or 2 opportunities that probably should have found the back of the net. And we've said it before, that's something that this style lends itself to. I mean, you could see there were a lot of layoffs at the top of the box, right? There was a lot of switching the field and then that player sprinting into the box to get to that back post. So I think that we're seeing that the components are there to not solely rely on the striker. But I mean, you're right. Everyone just, I guess, has to go through more shooting practice, like keep their heads down, take a deep breath before they take that shot. It just wasn't there.
I think they've got to get the confidence somehow, that Ola bearing that penalty at the weekend, I think was huge for him personally. It was a very well taken penalty. A lot of these other guys, I feel like Julian Gressel's another guy that like he's putting in quality crosses, and like to get one solid goal under his belt, I think would be a huge confidence boost. Same thing. Sam, you said, Paul agreed he was a little bit off tonight. I thought Kevin was timid after he knew that he should have made a better chance out of the one he really had, and I think that's a lot of these guys. It just seems like they need those confidence building. Even a goalie howler would be huge for this team.
Yeah, and I said I'd love to be in the locker room, but a little bit to see the team mentality too, right? Obviously they're frustrated, but I think the body language of some of the players on the field, you could see it was pretty negative, especially as it got further into the second half. I'm thinking about Gressel specifically, had a couple that he sent in and it ricocheted out, and he immediately put his head down when instead he probably could have gotten to the ball and created a second opportunity from it. Again, Paul, the same thing, kind of right before he came out, you could see he was like physically frustrated, and especially from your captain tonight, you hope that he's a little bit able to pick the team up more. I don't know if that's asking too much because it was a very frustrating night, but yeah, I guess, you have to turn it around pretty quickly too, because we have another away game this weekend.
Man, I don't know if you can chalk it up to just a lack of grit, kind of. And I know that's not what you're doing there,
No.
but I don't think they could just try a little bit harder and score. If you look at the average positions, it's all, man, I don't want to bury the striker, but it's all the wide players play pretty wide. Paul cut in a little bit tonight from the right flank, but Perez and Paredes were almost basically playing the same position. Like if you look at where the average spot they were on the field, and then Gressel is playing pretty high up, but it's all wide, and then it all points to that striker. And we'll get into the lineups and probably the midfield later, but we didn't really create anything in the middle, so it has to be Ola, or it has to be whoever's starting at striker. They're
Perez.
They're huge. Like I said, Perez and Paredes were basically the left wingers together. So I don't know.
Well, then you don't need him out wide, right? Like I'm thinking about the two at the very beginning of the half there was a long ball and Adrian got to the top of it, but he kind of swung his run out too far.
Yeah, that
and
was
he wasn't
frustrating,
attacking the goal.
and it shows a lack of. Well, we got him off the waiver wire, right? He's not a lethal
At least
finisher.
he's playing his position now, so I can actively criticize him, though, right?
Yeah, but the wide play is working. We're getting numbers. We're getting overlaps. We're getting crosses into the box. It's just not coming up to anything, and maybe that's because we're over relying on it, and teams know to play defense against that, or there's just a lack of quality in the middle. And I think it could be a combination of both, but I'm leaning towards the second now.
Well, I think you saw kind of a tale of two games. Obviously the red card had a huge impact on the way that we were going to play and the opportunities and spaces that were there. In the first half, it felt like we were playing, very well as far as, being direct, going up the field, trying to play long balls and create opportunities that way. Whereas, second half, Montreal sat back and bunkered a bit, and we were able to send balls in and, certainly had chances to finish. There weren't a absolute brick wall back there. The finishing, as we've said, was subpar, to be generous. But you saw several different styles, and none of them really came off. We also, saw team use.
Hey, Russ and Zach, can you hear me?
Subs.
Hey, Zach.
Sounds like
We're
we're
gonna
cutting
send it to
All
the
right, we'll get
press.
started, buddy. We'll go to Steve Goff first. Steve, go ahead.
Hey, Russ, thanks for your time.
Hey, Steve.
Assess the game and what it was like in the second half with the man advantage, trying to break through with all those opportunities that you did get.
Yeah, it's I'll start off saying we put everything out there. Even when it was 11 against 11, I thought we had a decent start to the game. High press, didn't give too much away. Had our chances. Second half, we created a lot. We knew going into the second half we had to be patient, but still attack the game. And I actually thought we did that well. The one thing we leave this game with is a goal. So it's frustrating, but it's good that we have all those opportunities. You leave an away game with a point against a pretty good opponent. So pretty disappointing. We can't leave here with a win. I think it would have been nice to have 3 wins in a row and take 3 points from here.
We'll go to Jason Anderson. Jason.
Hi, Russell. Thanks for speaking with us.
Yep.
It seemed like in the second half, it took maybe a little while. You said, you wanted to be patient, but not slow the game down too much. And then those late subs really brought some life. Was there just maybe a little bit of fatigue trying to break through with this being the second game in 3 days and playing in Florida, or was it just the game went that way?
I'll say there was definitely some fatigue within guys' legs and going into the second half. The subs did a great job coming on and changing it. That's what, why we need every single player on this team. The guys that came in did a good job. We just couldn't score, but the opportunities we created and, the effort put out there was great from everyone. So it's good to see those guys come on and show themselves and really give a lot to this team. Obviously we didn't have the outcome we wanted, but you could see the will and the persistence from a lot of those players coming in the game.
We'll go to Mauricio Gomez.
Thank you for your time. Just one question. The level of game is being improved in the team, but of course, what is missing is the goal. What do you think that is missing? Because everything is there, but the goal is missing, of course. But what is missing exactly to make it happen?
I mean, I personally can't answer that. I think we're putting ourselves in good moments. You saw against Miami, the first game, that we do convert those chances, and our guys are completely capable of that. So we just have to continue on this path, and it's good knowing in a game where you don't make your chances that we still keep the 0 at the back. And we've done that 3 games in a row. I think we have to stick by that and keep giving those guys up top confidence, because all of them are good players and all of them can go out and score in every single game.
Russ, that's it, man. Thank you.
Yep. See you guys.
DC United's Russell Knaus joining the post-game press conference tonight, and also searching for answers. It sounds like there's a lot that this team has got to figure out, but keeping it all in perspective, a lot of things are still going right in terms of what we're seeing on the field, and so that, to me, I think the most important thing the guys got to do is keep their focus. They fix the finishing, and they're really in a great spot to perform in this league. You got your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's been a while, I think, since we've come away from a tie, and the other team probably is the one that feels lucky. And I mean, we had all the chances. Montreal just had a couple, and honestly, I thought our defense did really well in them. I thought they were very cohesive. They had each other's backs, and it's easy when you play so high to fall asleep a little bit and to not track your man as close as you should be, because you haven't really been tracking him all night. But our defense was really on top of it, and Montreal is probably feeling pretty lucky tonight. I want to shout Samuel22 in the YouTube comments, who's a Montreal fan. Welcome to the show. You're probably feeling pretty good and kind of giggling at everyone super stressed out in the comments. But I think there's positivity to go from here, and I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, I always get to this point when I watch soccer. Would you rather your team win or your team play good? And it seems like for so long, DC United did not play well. Guys, I'm convinced, and I just tweeted this out from the show again, I'm convinced we're having to atone for all those wins we shouldn't have gotten during Vinny Ball. And this is payback, because we deserve to win. We were the better team. We played better. And it's just not happening right now.
Is this payback specifically for the one shot, one kill back in Montreal a couple years ago?
See, that subconscious was pulling that. That's definitely it. Man, yes, absolutely.
I mean, that was preposterous. Luckily, we got out of this one with a draw.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for it. Obviously the schedule congestion is going to be a thing moving forward. But frankly, the team looked on top of it. By the end of the 90 minutes, people were looking tired. But I think there is something to be said for the emphasis that the coach puts on having high fitness levels, being ready to play, and being willing to use a lot of different pieces. Like I was saying earlier, they tried a bunch of different patterns, particularly late in the game. It just didn't come off with a goal in the back of the net. But I think it could be sustainable moving forward.
Yeah. That's great, Black, and I think that's a great first thing to touch on that I'm seeing a lot in the comments. Well, someone said, should MLS get rid of the midweek game? And like the soccer fan in me says no, but the DC United fan in me says probably. But just generally other questions that I'm seeing in the chat and questions I've seen kind of on Twitter the past few weeks is this sustainable? Is this level of fitness and the style that Losada is trying to get these players to play sustainable throughout an entire really congested MLS season? And my answer to that is yes, if they are fit enough. And I am a Leeds fan, and that's where I get my answer from, because they won the championship playing this style and not burning out, and they had an excellent run of form at the end of the Premier League season, and they did not burn out. They actually did a little bit better at the end of the season. I would argue that DC United's fitness is probably not where Losada wants it right now. He hasn't mentioned it in a press conference in a while, but I doubt just the 2-week break he got, he was able to get all his players up into form. So I think that they're still getting there. And again, they're still learning the system. He cautioned that it could take up to a season for that to happen. And you can see it on the field that some of the passes are just not where they should be. The runs just aren't where they should be. So I think we're still progressively getting there. And once we do, if it's done in the right way, it's absolutely sustainable and it will wreck everybody.
I don't think so. I'm going to disagree with you. I think Leeds have had a good year. The year before that, they had the whole COVID break, as is everyone else, but that was late in the season that gave them the break. And the year before that, they crashed out of place before that. They crashed out of the playoffs, or they missed the playoffs before that. So it's this is cool. Leeds definitely pulled it off this year. I don't think it will work in MLS. It's a different game. It's further travel. It's hotter games. It's not. It's right. 78 degrees. It's not hot here like that one England fan.
But the other team is also combating those. So if your fitness level is naturally higher than what
the other team is not trying to run around like crazy the whole game, and they're going to sit back like Orlando did.
So if they're sitting back, our fitness isn't as much, right? Because we just get to attack. We're not necessarily
but if we're tired 30 games into the season and we've been chasing the whole game, it's a lot easier to sit in a low block versus what Losada's trying to do. And I think it will. I don't know. I don't want injury problems to resurface. Hopefully we're turning the corner on that, but I think it could, especially if you play the same lineup twice in a week on 3 days.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a couple things there. I want to get to the lineup in just a second, but Sam, back to kind of the original question that was asked. I mean, I think we can't forget that this season was not only impacted a little bit by the COVID schedule, but also primarily by the labor dispute that pushed back the start of the season and kind of further congested the entire season. And so things are a little different once again in 2021 than they would have been in 2019, and hopefully than they will be in 2022. Hopefully we'll see fewer midweek MLS games. We may see more midweek Open Cup games, hopefully again, as well as other random competitions that either the team or the league invent that we have to play in. We'll talk more about that later as well. But yeah, I think the midweek games are definitely going to be more of a challenge or the upcoming months here than they have been already this season, just the nature of the schedule this year. But I did want to ask you guys, with the lineup tonight, I was shocked to see the same starting 11 tonight that played on Saturday. I didn't think that was the right move. After flying down, playing in hotter conditions, and the subs came too late. And so that was surprising to me. What are your thoughts on that?
I disagree with the first part. We dominated the first half. We had so many chances. I completely agree with the second part that, we started with the same lineup. We needed to make those subs earlier, and you could kind of tell those guys were gassed. So I'm not mad about going out and using the momentum that you had from this weekend to try to close it out in the first half. But once that didn't work, you needed to change some personnel and get some new guys in there.
Yep, I have in my notes here, high pressing early plus missed chances equals bad stuff, because you can't unless Losada's got them trained like super leads here, that you're not going to be able to maintain that pressure and that drive to attack the whole game. And looking at our bench, I don't know how many career MLS goals are on it, but there's not too many. There's a few guys with like single digit MLS goals career, and that's not their fault. A lot of them are young or have just arrived in the league, but that's definitely a factor when you're putting them on the field, right? You can't expect a goal out of a guy who's only scored one against Red Bull, even though it was a fantastic goal from Yao. Like, you can't expect him to come on and score.
Well, I think it depends on what you're asking of them. Are you asking for them to come in and provide physical relief and a fitness relief to some of the guys who are tired, or are you asking for them to come in and make a difference and be that goal scorer?
Well, up a man 0-0, you would be hoping for some goal scoring off the bench.
Yeah, I just think it's two different questions. But Black, go ahead. I think you had something to say.
Yeah, I think I don't have a problem with rolling out the same lineup. I think I agree with you all that making the subs earlier was probably necessary. The guys were definitely to the point of exhaustion by the time it came around. The way that the system is supposed to work, it's going to be a push and pull. You don't go full press the full 90. You are able to shift in and out of it as it comes throughout the game. And frankly, with the way that system is supposed to work, you're creating chances throughout the game. You don't necessarily need to have you're not wearing the team down so that you get a late goal. Losada's system would be just as satisfactory if you got one of those chances the first 15 minutes and you're playing a goal up for the rest of the game. So I don't necessarily agree that we have a stylistic issue there. It's really comes down to finishing. I don't know how you fix that. I'm sure that they've been working on it in practice, but it comes back down to needing a striker, needing an option there. That's where I'm at now.
So do we roll out the same 11 again at the weekend?
Well, there's two ways to look at it, right? There's either you're keeping the momentum going from this past weekend, and which was a hard-fought win and successful, but the other option is that Losada has seen enough to say this is the crew he wants to roll with, game in, game out. You've got plenty of subs. You have the opportunity to make them. He is willing to make them, again, too late in this instance. But we weren't really going to get a whole lot of feedback on that from Losada with how he was feeling in the press conference tonight. Hard to blame him for that.
Reminded me of the good old Ben Olsen. We're still on Sun Country Airlines or whatever we flew in here on. Maybe not as many spicy words, but to me, I think the 11 that we started in the past two games is probably the best 11. I don't necessarily see anyone that I would very obviously start over that 11. A couple guys that are out injured could potentially make their way in there. But it wasn't that for me. I think it was more, freshness at the weekend. Montreal's not a great team. Perhaps you score early and eke one out, which I'm sure Losada looked at that and thought we would score early with the pressing style. The one thing that definitely stuck out to me in the second half, though, is guys who haven't gotten as long looks this season, or in the case of Emil Assad, had long looks and haven't seen the field recently. I thought both Yao and Assad came into the game and definitely added a spark. I don't know that that's because their talent level is far above anyone else on the team. It's probably just because they were fresh, and I think a lot of those guys were dead, by the time they came on. But the first touch Griffin Yao had was a great ball into the box, and I thought Emil Assad brought a good spark tonight as well. So I think if you started either of those guys at the weekend with kind of the opposite approach of, they're going to go 60-70, and then you're going to bring in some of the guys who are probably in your best 11, that could be a sustainable approach as well. And that, to me, that's the kind of mentality this team's going to have to get in as we see more and more of these midweek games.
It's tough for me. If I can comment real quick on the lineup thing, I would like to see a tweak in the midfield. I don't know if Felipe and Canals is the solution. Again, I'm worried about us driving the ball through the middle of the field. I really don't. It's zone 14, the area right outside the box. I don't see us having the ball there until after the defense is set up, because we work it down the sides through the channels, and then we always cut it back. And that's the only time we ever have the ball at the top of the box. There's no one there, so I would like to see Nyman come in. Maybe he can do a little bit there. As far as the guys off the bench and maybe Bert carrying the load, I agree with you, John, that this was probably our best starting 11, talent-wise. And that kind of worries me. I'm not a big believer in Assad. I saw a couple people clamoring for him to start over Perez, which I have a problem with. But I don't know if Assad was the same player he was in 2018 when DC United first picked him up. He scored 3 goals since, and I know he's taken penalties for a while. I'm starting to get really worried about the quality that is on this team. I think it's starting to show here.
So we had another question in the comments asking about Roberta. First, I made the comment about Losada having his time with subs. I know that he was here when Roberta was signed. I don't think that was necessarily like his scouting network and decision to like really bring him on. Like it was a few weeks, maybe a couple months in. Give him a lot more time and he'll have a lot more say in things like that. And I saw a lot of head nods, so I feel like everyone agrees. But do you think he's possibly an answer?
Guys, I'm going to cut it straight to you. I checked his transfer market hoping that he was on a loan to buy instead of just bought outright, but he cost us $1 million. That was the hit on our financial budget, and I think, like you said, I would like to see what Losada will do on the $1 million. I'm not writing him off, and I'm sure you guys can. I don't know. Can you hype him up a little bit? I don't know if he's shown anything yet.
Just think, Joshua, that $1 million would have been money still in our pocket had we drafted Generation Adidas players. But you know,
Stever was also $1 million.
Hey, never mind. I'm not going to be mean to players.
Look, for me, Roberta, he needs a little more time. You know, he's going to have to grow into this league. I think you guys are going to come at me for this, but I think he can learn from a guy like Kamara as well. You know, Kamara's been successful in this league. I still think Kamara is going to be more successful this season. I think the finishing is going to come for him, but Roberta pushing him might be exactly what it needs. I mean, last season, who was pushing Kamara? Sorga? I mean, I like Eric Sorga, but he's probably not an out-and-out, every week starter in this league. Roberta could be. Kamara has been. So if we can get some healthy competition in that striker position, especially if it's faltering, I think that can only be a good thing. And of course, I'd love for us to try to bring in someone else, this summer. I think we'd all love that. I don't know if it'll happen. But yeah, I think Roberta still has plenty of time before I'm concerned.
Yeah, we've only got so many minutes to go around in the attacking positions, particularly when you're playing that five at the back. I'd like to see more of Roberta. I'd like to see what he's got. That's part of the reason that we're a little bit concerned about seeing two back-to-back lineups the same. If Losada's established that these are the guys to go with, maybe he hasn't been seeing the necessary quality during practice, or there's other factors laying in there. But at some point, you're going to have to see what you have there. And if you don't have the quality you need, you're going to have to make a move to bring it in. Again, Kamara did not have a great game tonight, but in the last 3 games, he's got 3 goals. You'd take a goal game for the season, but certainly the trend line and the frustrating chances, the ones that you think should be in the back of the net, kind of belie the numbers there. But
it's tough because we're creating so many chances, and they need to go in. We were on a winning streak, but we've scored 1 goal off of PK against the past 2 teams, and they've had 3 sendings offs, like not even late ones. One of them was late. One of them was late tonight, right? Or no, that it was a half injury. Sorry, 2 sendings off, but they were like early in the game. Like we should have buried both of these guys.
Wasn't there a late one last game?
Oh, you were right. There was 3.
There was 2 last game.
I got them
One
switched
was
out.
super late.
But we should have buried both of these teams. They're playing down a man, and I know that's like we have a whole history with that of not putting teams away when they go down. But objectively, we should be putting goals on these teams, and it's just not happening. I'm super frustrated.
A lot of people are asking about Reyna too.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see more minutes for Yordi. I think he brings a different kind of spark, and I think he to me he brings a little bit of an attitude out there and a little bit of a chip on your shoulder confidence that would do wonders for our attack if he could get some more minutes.
So would you start him in the next game?
I don't know that Ola's done enough to be dropped in my mind. I think I'd look at the data. I'd see how gassed were these guys really. At Ola in particular, strikers can generally play more than perhaps the midfielders or the wing backs in terms of how much energy they're exerting. So I don't know that I would drop Ola just yet, but I may drop Perez. I may, I saw, I think it was it Ben Bromley from Filibuster tweeted about potentially dropping Perez for Assad. I don't know if Assad would be the move I would make just yet. That could be an option for Reyna, or I mean, even Griffin Yao I thought brought a lot tonight. But again, I'm trying to dissect in my mind the quality that they brought versus the energy that they brought, because they weren't dead from playing 150 minutes over 4 days.
I don't even know if because we haven't seen a bunch of Reyna, but I don't think he's the type of player that can fill the 9 role in Losada's system. He's not a target forward by any means. He's not a big guy comparatively.
It'd be nice to have him in the box on crosses and corners, though. That's the only thing I'm thinking. Sometimes those balls come in and there's no heads near it.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting. I could see maybe, gosh, just everyone's clamoring for Perez to get pulled, and he could use some rotation, and he hasn't been burying them. But I think I love the work that he's been doing. But if we had to make a change, and I'd love to see Reyna get some minutes, because he's got a hefty salary. I know Vancouver were paying some of it, but he's got to be bringing more than nothing, and so maybe we get a look at him instead of Perez.
Yeah, the other thing I pulled up here on the side is just the schedule coming up. We talked a little bit about, Joshua, you said we should have buried these teams. We did two games ago. We kind of did bury Miami, but then we kind of squeaked one out at the weekend, and tonight outshot them. But it was a nail biter to the end. Upcoming schedule includes NYCFC at the weekend, Toronto, Philly, Chicago, then the Red Bulls. So the schedule gets a lot more difficult here over the next few weeks and months. Nashville, New England, Philly again, Chicago again too. A couple games with Cincy, but I mean, the schedule is not Miami back to back and then Montreal, and so they've got to finish these chances. That's to me the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of showed that we could hang with Philly in New York City, but we also showed we couldn't necessarily score against them. So I think it'll be a good marker in this Losada era to kind of compare and contrast what those games look like and what these games looked like, and if we're able to grow and improve and really learn from those mistakes.
And I think we've seen that Losada is going to approach each of the games very similarly. He's going to play the style that he wants the team to play. They're going to go out there, they're going to attempt to score goals. You're not going to have the advantage of being a man or two up. You're not going to necessarily having the other keeper with his hamstring fully taped for the last 5 minutes, or
straight taped together.
Whatever, whatever it was he was doing there. Each game is going to be different, but I expect he's going to roll out the same style, and we're going to see how it works over time. Like we said, the last 3 games. Montreal, I think, was in 8th going into the night. It's probably still right around there. Miami is not a great team. You've got to look at a longer sample size than what we've been able to see, and we'll get that coming up.
I want to shift real quick to a more positive discussion, though, and that's the clean sheets we've kept now in several games in a row. Bill Hameed hasn't allowed a goal since he's been back, and one of the questions we got from YouTube, thanks Noah, was when Steve Birnbaum comes back, which he should be really, really close, does Andy Nahar potentially move up to Julian Gressel's spot? Or is Nahar moved to the bench? Or is Donovan Pines moved to the bench? Is Brandon Hines-Ike moved to the bench? What does that look like to try to accommodate Steve Birnbaum? Because for all the challenges we've had in the attacking end, the defense has been pretty strong.
Right. Does Steven Birnbaum move to the bench? I don't know if that's the default right now, but
it probably is in my mind. I agree.
He hasn't been starting, but Andy Nahar has been fantastic, and he's undersized for a center back in this league. But if you're playing 3, you can get away with that. And Pines has been doing well. He's been trying to dribble up at least once every game. I don't know if it's a very specific instruction for Losada, but he pulls it off. But he's been good in the back too.
Hines-Ike too has been really.
And Hines-Ike, I mean, Brian, is he injured right now?
No, I don't think he was on the injury list. Is he?
But we're talking about we have more options than just Birnbaum, and I really don't know. Look, I love Birnbaum. He's one of the players that's carried us all the way from RFK, and I think he is quality, but I don't know if you would mess with this system right now.
And I think that's the key, is it's not necessarily an insult to Steven. It's more that defense, when it's jiving and working, is one of those positions that you don't mess with, right? It's kind of like a goalie, and we've seen that in recent history. When a goalie is really hitting their stride and doing really well, you don't pull him just because he's not your traditional starter. And I think the same with the defense. If they've figured it out and figured out how to work together as a cohesive team, you kind of let that ride for a little bit until things start getting rocky, or until maybe you need something specific like Steven to maybe see the end of a game with his experience. So I agree with you all, and that's not necessarily a knock to him. It's just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it in the defense.
But also to the point that John was just making, we haven't been playing the highest scoring teams in the league, Miami and Montreal Black.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you took the words out of my mouth. You haven't been playing elite teams that are putting in lots of goals. I think we heard from the team last week during the press conference talking that Birnbaum's close. He's starting to work back into the team. He might start seeing some time after that initial Gold Cup break in the middle of July there. I think for me, you've got a lot of games coming up. There's lots of fixture congestion. I don't necessarily ascribe to keeping that back line locked in, week out. I think you can, if you've got quality there, you should certainly get them all out there, particularly if he's showing in practice that he's picked up the system and is able to do what we need to see. He's got the quality. He's got who's been a captain on this team. I think it would be a disservice not to at least get him some game minutes and see what can play out there. It's a long season, and you got a chance to see a lot of different looks and hopefully get where you need to be come playoff time, which right now DC United's in a playoff position. So
you bring up the Gold Cup, hopefully Pines is with the USMNT frame that, and then we just have an empty spot anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's a fair point though. Black, the fatigue from fixture congestion absolutely impacts the back line as well. And in a high pressing style, they're arguably working harder than they ever have before. One quick editorial note: Frederick Briant was in the squad tonight, so he is not injured. He was available. Speaking of players, we've talked about an awful lot of them. Now's the time where we get to name a man of the match. And I won't call on Sam first this week because I did it at the weekend. We'll let Sam go last today.
Thank you.
But Joshua, your screen lit up first, so you're lucky number one.
Oh, my screen lit up because Sam's mic is hooked up through mine. So,
I mean, I saw John's screen lit up the whole time. So it feels like John probably needs to go first.
No.
I can go first.
I'll take it. I'll take it because I'm going to take a page from Sam's book and give my man of the match to Kevin Paredes. Not a lot of bright spots on the night when we should have scored more goals, and we kept a clean sheet. And Paredes, while very high up the pitch, is also part of the defense and has been doing a good job. I like what I've seen from him. I think he's already an MLS level left back. I think he's effectively benched Mora. Just maybe a little bit better fit in the system, but I think he's also just on talent point already there. And you can still see that, like, how raw he is. So on a night with not a lot of excitement, I'm excited for Paredes and the shift that he put in. Again, he's my man of the match.
I'm sure you're excited about Paredes. I mean, this show, everyone loves Paredes on it, but his finishing today was poor.
How many chances did he have?
I still want to play. I wish him all the success. But on a night where you needed one moment, he didn't come up with it and ended up getting subbed off. I've had a hard time saying that he was the man of the match.
I gotta look up. Has Joseph Moore ever scored a goal for DC United? I'm talking. He's a teenager. He's replaced.
So hold on, I'll jump in on that. Joseph Moore is not a great fit in the 3-man backline system, but Joseph Moore was outstanding in the 4-man backline system, and I don't.
Guys, I thought we didn't play a 3-man. I thought we played a 5-man.
No, you said 5. We played 3. Oh man.
I'm trying to get it in there.
Yeah. So for me, my man of the match, I can't give it to an attacker because nobody created a goal on those 27 shots. I I think who scored had Donovan Pines rated the highest. I have no problem giving my man the match to Donovan Pines. Another clean sheet. He feels like he's coming into his own. We just had a conversation about whether he's pushing guys who are veterans above him for those minutes. So for me, it's Donovan Pines.
Did it actually end up being 27 shots?
Yeah, it was up there. Yeah.
I knew it was over 20, but
I thought your face was at Black's decision.
no, I think it was a good decision. I was more just jarring to hear that. I agree with you, Black. It's tough for me to give it to an attacker as well, and I think all match kind of one of the players that quietly performed very well was Russell Canals. I thought he had a number of good balls in the position. I thought he played very well, and I agree with what you guys talked about earlier. I think bringing in Nyman for Felipe potentially makes a good amount of sense, moving forward. But I don't think Russell Canals gets dropped from this team, and it's nice to see him in his actual position these days. So, yes, Russell Canals for me.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about fitness and like what guys are going to be able to do that all season. If it's anyone on DC United roster right now, it's Russell Canals. He's literally everywhere all the time in the middle of the field. He's got to be in the best shape out of the whole team.
Yep. I know. I'm stalling. I like going last because I try to pick different players, but John took my other one. So, I mean, I guess I'll give it to Kevin, too. I think it's really harsh to say he doesn't deserve it because of his finishing. He had really one opportunity that stuck out in my mind, and while that he absolutely should have put it away, we just kind of had a whole conversation about how it's really on, like, the forwards and kind of the midfielders who are in the center of the box. So I think it's a little bit harsh to blame all our offensive woes on him. But they were saying it during the broadcast that he just has this way where he takes this like little extra touch that sends him around a player and then causes the player to foul him. And we saw that a lot today. And just the creativity he has. And I think the rawness kind of lends itself to that creativity and what he's able to create for this team. I think he showed really well tonight.
Yeah, and as we look around the club, DC United, I referenced it earlier, announced the Capital Cup, which is exactly what we don't need, but it's more games for the Black and Red against, I'm going to butcher these guys, Puebla and Alianza, I think. That'll be played mid-July this year. It kind of takes the spot from 2019, which was the League One tournament. And it sounds like the club are hoping to get a fourth team involved in this, maybe make it an actual tournament. There will be 3 dates, so hopefully that's an opportunity to play a championship game instead of just kind of a round robin. We'll see what that format looks like. And they did also kind of tuck in there that while they expect this to be an annual event, they do anticipate the teams rotating year over year. So your thoughts on the Capital Cup?
I think they could have done a little bit better of a logo. That's my only thoughts. But besides that, cool. It'll be great. When we went to the League One Cup, it was Loudoun United cosplaying as DC United. I don't know if there was a player on the field that had a name on their back. But that's good minutes for those guys. If you want to go see these teams for the first time and probably only time in DC, go for it.
Yeah, I think it depends on what we do with it. Go ahead, Black.
I think I applaud the team for going out and finding additional ways to utilize Audi Field. I'll be interested to see what kind of crowd we get out there for Puebla and Alianza. I expect that they probably have more fans in the DC area than some of those league teams we had. I think a couple of years ago, Real Betis brought a fairly strong contingent of fans out. So be excited to see that. I hope we don't burn any amount of energy for starters in those games.
I hope Losada plays. That would be fun. Is he eligible for this?
I'm sold at that point.
He posted a picture the other day of him jumping in practice. So, yeah, I mean, that's all great points. If this is kind of a business decision and a marketing decision, you're right to utilize the stadium, to get more people in the stadium and hopefully enjoying it, to just tap into the soccer market in DC. I'm not mad at it. I mean, I also wouldn't be mad at maybe seeing that last game that we play incorporate some of the starters to kind of get back and just see what we can do against a real opponent before jumping back into the season, as opposed to just relying on our scrimmages and kind of playing against the younger kids. Obviously, all 3 games is probably a lot, but if you want to kind of utilize it a little bit, try out a couple different things, I wouldn't be mad at that either.
It'd be a great time to start practicing a switch to the 4-4-2 low block style that we're going to play the second half of the season.
Okay. You mean when we burn out?
No, I'm joking completely. Don't ever do that. Again, I enjoyed watching the team be the better team on the field today, even though they did not win.
Yeah, the other big news on the men's side of things is 5 DC United players, as we talked a little bit about earlier, had been named to the United States preliminary roster for the Gold Cup. Lots of things are going to change between now and when the final roster is actually named, but that's Paul Arriola, Bill Hameed, Moses Nyman, Kevin Paredes, and Donovan Pines. And I think it's tremendous and also kind of confirms some of the things we've talked about on the show, and a lot of folks in the black and red media scene, with young guys like Nyman and Paredes even being fringe national team mentions right now is huge, because they've got plenty of opportunities to continue to play for the Stars and Stripes, and hopefully that's in Olympics down the road, not this year, and then also World Cups in 26, 2030, and even if they could get a shot to go into camp at the Gold Cup at this stage in their career, would be huge for them.
Yeah, also notable is Bill Hameed, right, who a lot of not just DC United fans but MLS fans in general, and MLS commentators have noted that he probably should have received a lot more call-ups than he has throughout his career. So it's super exciting to see his name there on the roster. We didn't talk about him a lot today because obviously there weren't a whole lot of shots on goal against DC United. But I thought that his distribution out of the back was actually pretty good today. I'm usually pretty critical of that, but I think he was able to move the ball. It was a lot of shorter passes, and I think that really suited him well today.
All right. Looks like people are going to jump in with other thoughts there, but we'll talk a little bit on the women's side of the ball. The women's national team announced their Olympic roster. Was that yesterday morning or this morning?
I think it was this morning.
Kelly O'Hara and Emily Sonnet from the Spirit made the cut, so that's exciting news for them.
Yeah, love to see it. Disappointing that, Andy Sullivan's kind of been on the fringe. I think there were some people who were kind of reaching, saying that maybe she'll be one of the alternates. But frankly, because she is so on the fringe, I'd rather see her playing with the Spirit right now. But it is exciting that our 2 big name national team players did in fact make it onto the national team roster. And that's exciting. That starts in exactly a month, I think. Well, the Olympics start in exactly a month. I don't know when our first game is, or if that's even been announced yet.
I have no idea, but it'll be a good send-off and probably another trophy for this class of players.
Do the double.
Yep, never been done before.
Yep.
So exciting times. Let's see if they can win the World Cup and then back it up with Olympic gold.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see if the rules that the Japanese government have put in place about fans being allowed but not allowed to cheer are adhered to in any sense of the law. But anyways, that's the craziness we're living in. Upcoming games are around our clubs. We talked this weekend. DC United play away in New Jersey against New York City FC. Insert jokes here. Loudoun, who continue to struggle despite putting on good performances, are away to Charleston at the weekend. That's on Saturday. The DC United game, of course, is on Sunday. And also on Saturday, the Spirit are at Kansas City at 8:30. And that is, as I tried to say last week, the first trip to the new Kansas City team since they moved from Salt Lake City. So busy soccer weekend, and of course the Euros moving into the knockout rounds because nearly everybody qualified from the group stage. But that's going to be kind of crazy to see breakdown. I looked at the bracket. There was one picture. The left side is like all of the good teams, and the right side is pretty wide open. So it's going to be fun to see how that plays out. You guys have any picks for the Euros?
That sounds just like the MLS Cup playoffs. Like all the bad teams are on the Eastern Conference side, and like all of them made it through the group stage. The regular.
No.
Anyways, I have been enjoying Italy and France a lot. It'll be interesting to see if they meet each other and who wins out of that one.
I jokingly said Denmark it's coming home. That was amazing that they were able to make it through. John, you said that almost everyone made it through like it was so boring, but that Denmark, I mean, you couldn't have written a script. And then the other game, the timelines, they were crazy. I mean, Hungary almost made it through today. Like, it's been a pretty exciting tournament overall so far. So other than Denmark, it's coming home. No, I don't know. Honestly, I'm just enjoying watching.
John, I'll let you talk about England, but I'm hopeful that Belgium comes through and it really finds a way to take advantage of what has really been a golden generation for them. I think this could be their opportunity. They weren't really pushed a whole lot in the group stage, and now it's going to really come down to it here as we've played 2 weeks to knock out 8 teams of the 24.
Yeah, that's the part that I think I got a little bit hung up on, but I'm certainly rooting for Belgium. You guys know why. But oh man, you have to laugh at England. I kind of think they won their tournament when Scotland got knocked out, and at this point, it's kind of just gravy. The other piece, though, is it almost feels after the game today, is Germany going to go on a run and we're going to have to deal with that? Because that would be infuriating in a year when they just not as good as traditionally. I don't know. I could see Germany getting the win over England and then crashing out from there. But yeah, it's gonna get really exciting here into the knockout rounds.
Fun soccer, really. Team chaos. We love it.
What do we miss tonight, guys?
I don't think a whole lot.
It's a trick question. We missed the back of the net 27 times.
All right. How do I mute John without muting Black? I don't think I can in this format.
Well, listen, we had outstanding participation tonight on all of the socials. We appreciate everyone staying up with us tonight and talking through as a group therapy session. A lot of things going right for this team, scoring not one of them just yet, but I think we all believe they'll get there, and they'll have another shot at it this weekend against New York City FC in their home away from home in the swamps of Jersey. And we'll talk to you after that game right here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken.